Yeah, so, what do you know, Marcus, about this band? This band called Loathe.
I know pretty much nothing, man. So
I'm
going in basically blind today, and I don't know. Maybe we want to keep it that way. The only thing I know is that people have compared them to Deftones, if I'm not mistaken, and I love Deftones, so I guess that bodes well for me.
Okay.
But otherwise, yeah, I know very little.
Okay.
Hey, Grim.
Are you going to get your camera on? Or?
Yes, I will.
I'm sure people want to see your lovely face.
Camera is on.
All right, let's see if we can see if we can't bring you up. Little bit of fiddling on my side and we should be good. Okay. There we go. I think... Wait, they can't see this. Should have sorted this out before. Alright. We got you. Hey Flavio.
Beautiful. Look at that.
How you doing, mate?
I'm just looking at the like the track list here and having a look at some of the song names. It sounds interesting. What do you make of the? Well, first of all, how much do you know about these guys?
Capital F fuck all is
Okay, cool.
I did listen to the first like 20 seconds of the track, of the first track on the album. I was just like, what's this thing that these guys are voting for and asking about? But you know, like maybe what I like to do is usually read the Spotify the Spotify bio, but it is surprisingly absent right now. It doesn't say
dwell on
anything.
the Deftones thing too much. Yeah, okay, Grim. Fair enough.
Don't dwell on the Deftones thing. Okay.
What do you make of this album title? I let it in and it took everything.
I like the sound of the album title for sure.
Yeah, I love the sound of it as well.
It's my gut. I like long album titles. You know I do.
Yeah, me too. Do you think we should be interpreting it literally? Like, there's going to be themes of
like, what alien abduction?
No. I mean, well, I wasn't actually even I wasn't even thinking along those lines.
My puerile mind. Yeah, I'm looking even on their website, and they don't have a lot of information. They don't really have any information about them. All right.
One of the tracks is called "Heavy is the Head That Falls with the Weight of 1,000 Thoughts." How cool is that? That
sounds like my kind of thing, mate.
I guess I'm just wondering, like, are we in for like a concept album here? Like, I don't really know. It seems like it could be based on just the vibe I'm getting from this album.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether to look stuff up or just let it happen. It got a good review on Kerrang. Scouse Metalers, so they are from Liverpool.
Okay.
Head to brave and new places on excellent, expansive second album. I let it in and it took everything. Let it happen, says Grim. I think that's a good point at which to just start. Okay,
let's just go.
Guys, let me know if how the levels are as we go. But yeah, let's begin. We've got a 1 minute 20 album opener, I'm assuming. warm you up, you know? Dude, I can hear your clicking.
Sorry, I'm just having some audio issues.
And video issues.
Yep, I'll be right back.
Oh, there you are. Is that better? I paused it while you sort yourself out.
Yep, go for it.
Okay.
Baseline.
Straight into the next track.
The next track sounds fun.
Yeah, I really like it so far. I think it's really good. I would say I can understand the comparisons with Deftones. Just purely, it's purely the clean vocal sound, and it's not a bad thing for me at all. Having listened to the whole track, it definitely feels like its own thing. It doesn't feel like they're ripping Deftones off in any way. But there is something both in the tone of the guy's voice, which is kind of Chino-esque, and there's also something in his melodic choices, which is a bit Chino-esque in the way that he tails off some of his vocal lines with like a dissonant end. Like that kind of reminds me of Chino quite a lot. Grim says, I think the drums sound great. In particular, there's something about the snare tone that in some tracks that I haven't frequently heard. Super keen to hear Marcus's insights on that. I don't know if you want to talk about that or you want to give it another track and have a think.
Let's keep going and we'll touch on that for sure. But so far, I totally agree with everything you said.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really liked it. Really enjoyed it. I've talked about this before, but one of my like pet peeves is one thing that I struggle to get along with is like a really kind of heavy verse that goes into a really melodic chorus. But I thought they executed that so well. I really, really liked it. It didn't feel like cheesy at all.
Yeah.
I feel like the chorus was just done so well. It was really memorable. I almost like the rest of the song, the heavier bits and the verses almost just kind of they're almost I'd have to go back and listen to them again. Like I kind of can't remember the melodies, but I remember I can remember that chorus pretty clearly.
I think for the heavy bits for me on that song were interesting because they were familiar, yet there was something new about them, and there was something new in the sound design that was adding like a level of kind of chaoticness to it and dissonance, and definitely. Just kind of like the guitars cutting short and like some sound coming in and stuff like that. It was just making it a bit more interesting. All right, let's go to the next track.
One thing I just wanted to check really quickly. I couldn't tell, but it almost felt like the heavy vocals were being done by someone else. I'm not sure if that's true or not. But did you get that? Did you get that vibe?
Yeah, I kind of assumed it was someone else, but that could have just been based on the production. Obviously, the vocal, the two vocal sounds were produced in a very different way. So maybe
I guess we'll find out. But yeah.
All right, let's go.
Let's go. Lovely section.
Yeah. Oh man, that fucking slowdown there, that was fucking tasty.
Yeah.
That was very
That's really
tasty.
Oh, this is really nice too.
Next track.
Oh, this is part of the next song already. Yeah.
They just kind of flowed into each other.
Want to keep going?
Yeah, because then the track after this is like a minute long, so it sounds like a good place to stop. Got the ballad on the album.
Loving this, man. That's such a nice outro, man. And that lead or synth or whatever was going on over the top there was lovely.
Yeah, very nice.
I love a fade out as well.
I know you love a fade out. You're just looking for a fade out.
I love a fade out, man.
There was an article a few years ago about the lost art of fade outs and how like they're not done properly anymore. Like to do a proper fade out, right? From a production perspective, the way that our ear responds to high and low frequencies is different as the volumes change. So you can't just go into the master
just fade it out
and just fade it out. In order to get a really nice fade out where you kind of hear everything come down equally and is perceptibly the same, you have to reduce the high frequencies
at a different rate.
At a different rate to the lower frequencies in order to get that really smooth fade out. And they were saying how it's almost like a bit of a lost art from a production standpoint, where they used to do it a lot in the analog era, but now that fades are so easy to do from a kind of digital perspective. You just like right click and put your fade out, and that's it. That was kind of getting a bit of a lost art. Yeah. But yeah, a bit of a side note there. I have some thoughts about the song. I enjoyed it. I'm yet to understand kind of where it fits in the album, whether or not we're going to kind of get... Because this was very clearly like a ballad, basically, as much as it could be within the context of this album. And... the first proper track in the album had some of these like more melodic elements. The second one had almost none of those melodic elements, particularly from the clean vocals. And then this one is entirely like melodic, right? So I'm just wondering what the balance is going to be throughout the rest of the album. If there's going to be if this was the ballad, the traditional ballad of the album, or if there is going to be other songs where they kind of go that kind of softer route.
Yeah.
Go on, say what you think.
No, I think that's really fair. I was going to say, so far, I really liked the transition. I didn't mind the change at all. For me, so the track 3 Broken Vision rhythm was giving me more metalcore vibes, almost like Trap Them or Converge, or
a bit of Dillinger in there as well. But
Dillinger. Yeah. And it's a short track, and it was just kind of quite chaotic and quite heavy throughout.
Yeah.
And then we went into this, which reminded me, I guess, speaking of Deftones, they've got a song on Around the Fur, which is like Be Quiet and Drive or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Which has a very similar feel, just like big open guitars, and the whole song just feels like a wave washing over you.
Yeah.
You're just kind of like bathing in the song, and I just love that feeling. I really, really enjoyed that track.
Hey, Devil Moon.
And yeah, I didn't mind the transition between the two at all, even though they're stylistically very different. But I totally take your point. It'll be interesting to see
where the balance lies,
where they go, and like how the rest of the album is going to play out. But so far, I think I just wanted to say that I'm getting the feeling this is an album that can really
just get lost in a bit.
Yeah, just get lost in. I almost just want to not comment and just close my eyes and listen to the thing. An album that can really get under your skin, emotionally.
Grim asks, either of you familiar with My Vitriol? I've heard of My Vitriol, I think. But
I've heard of them, as well, but can't say that I'm familiar.
Have they been around for quite a while? Or am I getting them confused with someone else? I do have some comments on... how long have they been about, My Vitriol? UK Quartet. Yeah. They've been around a while now. So I did have some thoughts on the production of that track, actually. And I felt like there could be more vocal in the mix. I felt like and it felt a little bit like, I don't know, I'm not going to say over compressed, but it felt like they were pushing the levels of this essentially softer song harder than they should have. I felt like the production could have let it breathe even more, but that's kind of a difficult thing to allow something to do, especially within the context of a whole album, because when you're mastering a whole album, and we face this issue ourselves, is when you've got very quiet parts on an album and you want to kind of maintain reasonably consistent levels from one track to another, you can end up sometimes having to push tracks louder or against the limiter more than you would like. I don't know if that's the case here, but if that kind of maybe explains it, and it might be that my ears are just a bit tired after those first 2 tracks, which were really intense, and I'm mishearing. Both are possible outcomes. Any thoughts on the drum sound, maybe?
I really like it. I kind of see where it was Grim, right, who asked about the drum sound.
Yeah.
Was coming from the snare just is very meaty and very satisfying. It just kind of cuts through the mix in a really pleasant way. And I think that's quite hard to do in like guitar-driven heavy music like this, where it can get lost, or it can sound like the kind of Tesseract really over the top, like too much low end, over compressed snare.
I mean, that's a style, and I guess that's the point he was making. It's something that you don't usually hear with this particular type of music, because the tendency or the trend outside of some of your heavyweights like The Ocean, who we saw handled their drum sound very, very well, there tends to be a leaning towards slightly more aggressive tones at the cost of naturalism, right?
Yeah.
So it felt like a very natural sound, yet still impactful. And there was a lot of room sound in the snare.
Yeah, kind of like medium-bodied, not too much low end, some crack to it, and just enough to like cut through in the mix. Yeah, really enjoying it.
All right, let's carry on. So we're into 451 days short track. So let's do the next 2. This is kind of giving me Febris vibes, Uneven Structure. Do you remember that album?
really nice. Bringing in the heavy vocals, the chorus. You just minimize Spotify.
Sorry. Yeah, that was very good. The thing I had up when we were listening to that was the lyrics, and I was just interested in what they were saying. Not that I've analysed them or anything, but one thing I've noticed is that the lyrics are not fucking cheesy in any way. They're good. Yeah, they're really nice. Follow directions, Drew. Through fear I move around you, bearing a weight that suffocates too. Grow beyond amongst the few, you'll suffocate too. Yeah, it doesn't really kind of give me those cheese vibes at all. Which is really nice.
I have to say that song, so New Faces in the Dark, I enjoyed it. There were lots of really nice elements. I'd say it's the one that I've connected to the least emotionally so far. I feel like I just struggled to piece it together. It felt like there were lots of nice sections, but I was kind of like, struggling to see how it was coming together.
Yeah, it might be.
Again, that's just literally first listen, so.
Yeah, it might be one of those things where you just need to listen to it more. But also, you know, they kind of, it's not the first time that they've done they've just kind of dropped everything out and they've gone into like kind of synth swell and then just kind of brought everything back in again. It seems to be a bit of a thing for them. I don't hate it. I can imagine, like, if you went to see these guys live, the way that they would kind of just segue between sections and between songs, like they'd almost like not go and say anything on stage, and they just kind of create this kind of pulverizing, oppressive atmosphere. Is kind of what I'm. Yeah, exactly. What I kind of imagine in a live setting.
Don't break the mood.
The immersion,
Yeah.
But from that perspective, like, I think it's quite cool, and it's not something you hear in a lot of albums these days. Like no one's gonna just like break out into a synthy bit for like 20 seconds and then just kind of break out into the next section.
My favorite bit was in the first chorus. So it went into sort of the clean vocals vibe again, similar to what we had in the second track, Progressive Evolution.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, they're kind of doing this again, the sort of Deftones-y thing in the chorus. But then the chorus carried on, the music carried on, but the screamed vocals came in. I really, really enjoyed that.
Cool. Let's move on.
Yep.
Red Room. Hey, Vic. Hope you're well. Victor, haven't had the chance to dig into this album yet. Then dig with us, my friend. Dig along. That's quite a linear track, just like 2 minutes of everything in 6 and just fuck you.
Safety. Lovely drum sound.
Grungy, yeah, I agree. There's definitely some synth in there, yeah, Victor. Nice choice there.
What a guitar tone.
Yeah, I know. What a riff.
That kick is really loud.
is. Take it easy, dude. Just ending on that chord, it's like, fuck you. Okay, I'm gonna pause there. I really enjoyed that track. I would say even that
It's your favorite track?
in some ways, yes, because do you know what that track does? And I know like there's been lots of shifts throughout the album so far, but this song is almost a statement piece in itself. It says, like, it doesn't let you get really comfortable in any one particular style or one particular kind of way of delivering the music to you. It just shows a variety of styles, essentially, but the fact that it just does it all in one and it kind of works really seamlessly is basically like a big fuck you. It's like, this is a statement. It's saying we can do whatever we want. And my only issue with this, like, we're at track 8. Like, I would, if I was putting this album together and I was thinking, who's going to listen to our band for the first time? I would be tempted to move this up in the track order, because it kind of sets a precedent in a way and tells the listener that just get ready to not expect what you expect, right? And yeah, I really enjoyed it for that reason. I thought for the first time, in terms of clean vocals that I'd heard, he did some stuff that distanced himself stylistically from Chino, more than potentially some of the other tracks. So I enjoyed that. I thought that melodically it was a bit more interesting on the vocals, but you could argue that it was potentially a little cheesier. I didn't find it cheesy.
I didn't find it cheesy.
There was a maybe cheesy isn't the right word, but I would some of the melodies were firmly outside of kind of alternative metal. And that could be seen as, I mean, it's hard to use the word poppy, but certainly it reminded me of some stuff that I'd heard in kind of more indie.
Yeah, almost like an Incubus-y kind of vibe.
Yeah, I was getting yeah, exactly. Kind of grungy indie, and Vic said grunge himself. So there was definitely that. What did you think of that one?
Yeah, I really liked it. There's some moments on this album that are kind of blowing me away, to be honest, so far. I'm not sure how I feel about the whole journey overall. Like I'm a bit lost so far. I don't mean lost like in a bad way. I just maybe more like overwhelmed. Like I don't fully know what to think or feel yet.
And that's because of
just the
number of
stylistic jumping
styles.
around. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I can see now why the Deftones comparison is a bit bullshit, because I mean, really, this is way more sort of experimental, progressive than Deftones. You know, they're jumping around different styles. Yeah, you're right. The song really exemplified that. And it's harder for the listener, you know, then it's less accessible, right, than say a Deftones, where you're pretty much in one like dimension.
Yeah. And there was that one riff where you were like,
that
the
riff,
tone.
yeah, I could have had more of that riff actually. But no, I really liked it. I'm wondering about, like, say, the previous track that we listened to, like Red Room, and then also like the 451 Days, like a couple of these interlude type tracks that we've had. I'm wondering what they are trying to tell us with those tracks. I mean, I'm sure they're not just there as fillers, because they didn't need to have 14 tracks on the album. They must be serving a purpose. They must be trying to tell us something. I'd be really interested to go back and listen to the full thing again and like sort of piece that together.
Yeah, Oliver says after 2 or 3 listens, it would make more sense and be more enjoyable. I think
because that Red Room track, like when it opened up, it was pretty bleak and like pretty oppressive. And then I actually thought, oh, okay, we're going into something like really dark and heavy, because then also with like the track name Screaming, and then it wasn't like that at all. That surprised me.
Grim says those filler tracks make far more sense as an uninterrupted listen.
Yeah.
And Crispy Bart says, it's my one criticism that you get some sweet stuff and they don't always let you enjoy it fully. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Is It Really You? Nick says, you're not ready for the sheer aggression coming up. Total Michael Lessard vibes there when he said ebb and flow. this might be a good place to pause for a quick review.
I'm a little confused because I really enjoyed it, but I'm pretty sure that the chorus is taken straight from White Pony.
Oh, really?
From Pink Maggot, like the album closer for White Pony. And maybe don't play it now because I don't know. We should just
let's check it after.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the chords are exactly the same. But yeah, I mean, I liked it. What do you have to say?
Nothing. It was nice. It was chill. I didn't really.
You didn't take much from it.
No, not in a bad way. I just enjoyed it. But I mean, yeah.
Right.
The acoustic guitar coming in was a nice change.
Yeah.
And I figured that they, well, as Nick said, a nice slow ballad before the storm. If anything, they are just kind of, they know exactly what the fuck they're doing. And they're like, let's bring the most chill fucking instrument like around. Let's just put the acoustic guitar in some nice, gentle, strummed chords on the acoustic guitar, and then let's fuck everyone up. So that's kind of the vibe I got from it. So yeah, let's see how badly we get fucked. Some converge going on here as well.
I was just about to say.
Straight into the next one?
I think so. Let's do it.
a touch. That was full on black metal. That vocal tone. Hey, Ollie. Nice. The fuck?
That's pretty nice.
We call the stank face the Maw of Ruin. Did I stank face during that? I think that was one of the strongest tracks so far, actually. For me.
Interesting.
But I kind of got lost in thought in the middle of that track because I was thinking to myself, you know what, these guys have got so much promise there, but I mean, I'm getting towards the end of the album now and I'm starting to form an opinion, at least just the first opinion, obviously, because I'm listening to it for the first time. But I'm thinking it's impressive what they're doing. It's very impressive. From an artistic kind of, like we've discussed this on stream before, even on our gaming streams the other day when we were talking about artistic integrity and whatnot. It is very much intact from an artistic integrity standpoint. But my feeling that I'm getting now is that this album is not going to be their best album. I think their best work is yet to come, because it feels to me like the fusion, the meshing of these elements, and don't ask me how it could be done better, but I think if they are intent on incorporating them all into their sound, it can be done in a better way.
But this is album number
two.
Three?
Two. I haven't heard the first one, obviously. And not to say that I'm wrong, but I feel like, and the reason why I said this last track was probably one of the strongest is because I felt like it incorporated some of their sound with the kind of black metal elements at the beginning. Although it was maybe like a little, you could say it was like a little heavy-handed. It was like a very obvious, oh, this is the black metal section. But then they brought the black metal vocals into the non-black metal instrumentation, and I thought, okay, that's working really nicely. So I kind of, it felt of many of the tracks to be reasonably cohesive, despite the diverging influences, basically.
Yeah, I really liked both of the last two tracks. But I find that with the heavier tracks, it's a little bit more difficult for me to process them on first listen compared to like the ballady melodic ones. Just because they're just more chaotic and there's so much more going on. And I really liked them, but I feel like I'd have to go back and listen to them again. I do feel like with that last track, they were almost like pushing the boundaries of almost like the line between just like noise and melody. Like there were some riffs that were so experimental, and like at the start of the previous track, Gored, the way that started, it was almost like it was guitars, but it was almost like noise, right? They're really like, I think they're really experimenting with how they're creating these riffs. It's not just like your bog standard.
Well, I mean, they definitely have some kind of, it's something that you hear in a slightly more polished way from like math stuff, like Dillinger. Like they did lots of kind of scratchy kind of guitar breakdown riff stuff where you just kind of like, okay, well this riff is like scratch, all that kind of thing. So yeah, you can hear that influence on that front as well. I'm thinking back over the album, and I'm thinking to myself, how many memorable riffs did I actually hear? And I can think of maybe like 2 or 3, and maybe that's just because I've listened to them once. That's not to say that the riffs themselves didn't serve their musical purpose in that they were either impactful or they were creating a crushing, oppressive atmosphere. But how many could I, recall?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. But like you say, I think in that last track, they weren't meant to be.
Yeah.
I think they served the purpose. Yeah, anyway, let's carry on.
Okay. Sad cartoon. Such a weird production choice on the vocal. The breaths are louder than the vocals. Whatever bass pedal this guy's got, I want it. Memorable riff. I don't even know what riff you're talking about.
What an asshole.
At this point, how is this the same band? About 30 albums worth of material here, says Ollie. I mean, yeah, I kind of feel the same. There's nothing I've disliked. And I'm not sure why they've put this as a separate track and called it a Sad Cartoon Reprise, where they've had no problem earlier on in the album just appending like 40-50 seconds of synth at the end of a track. Why have they not just included it as a single track? Don't know. Alright, final track's coming. The title track is the final track. Promises a lot.
Pause.
I'm just getting a hint there. Just a hint. Yeah, we can pause.
Okay. Oh man, I don't know what to say. Because I thought that track was kind of masterful, to be honest with you. I thought it was really, really, really well done. I really liked it. But I take your point that it feels like, how have we gotten to this place?
I'm not taking away from the track. I think at this point, I'm just a bit overcooked.
Yeah.
There's so much, and obviously that will ease if I listen to the whole thing again. Like the familiarity of it may ensure that it's potentially less intense the second time around. I enjoyed the track.
Do you feel like you've had too much stimulation in the album so far? Like it's just an onslaught of, like, just been barraged by.
I mean, maybe it's a product of the way that we're listening to it right now, you know, in that we're trying to listen closely and pick up as much as possible. And maybe if I just had it on and didn't, maybe, you know,
that's not how you'd ever listen to an album like this.
Exactly. That's what I'm just saying. Is it too much for me? Like, you know, well, I don't think so. I've listened to, I've listened to fucking Converge albums back to back, and it's fine. Like, so the intensity is not there. It is not the issue. I don't know what is.
That track for me was like the ballad. It was almost like what I enjoyed the previous ballads.
The ballad that should have been.
Yeah, to me that was like what the previous ballad should have been. Right. It was like a ballad that was not really a ballad, but it was a ballad. You know what I mean? Like they did it in such a masterful way. It was really, really well executed, really clever. Like they made it into something else, even though it had like all the ballad vibes. Whereas the previous two ballads were more like classic, as close to a ballad as you can get for the style of music.
All right, I won't dwell on it because honestly, like for that song, I didn't appreciate it, and I didn't appreciate it because I think my brain was just not receiving it.
Interesting.
But I'm curious to, like, that would have been a perfect way to end the album.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm just curious what this final track is gonna be like.
Well, it's a title track, so let's find out.
Definitely February, yeah, totally.
I see you are. I see you are. I see you are. I see.
A nice way to end it.
Yeah, that was really nice. I was expecting a heavy ending.
Well, I mean, we got a bit of both, to be fair. But yeah, I like.
Yeah, I just meant right at the end.
I know.
I thought that was really good. I really enjoyed that track.
Mm.
You seem very skeptical at this point. By the end of this album,
there's a huge amount to appreciate.
Yeah.
There's some really nice highs. I'm just trying to think about what I enjoyed most about the album, and I'm thinking while there were some really nice heavy sections, they're potentially like, all things being even, not as many nice heavy bits that I enjoyed as much as the more melodic bits.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's just... I don't think it's a matter of me liking melodic, dreamy, whatever stuff more than heavy stuff. I just felt like the melodic stuff was generally a bit more memorable. But that's almost the issue I have, even with the melodic stuff, is that there is a big Deftones influence, and it's really it's very obvious.
Yeah.
That's the only downside I would say. That's why I feel like these guys have got so much potential, but this is not. I mean, this very well may be the best showcase of what they can do so far, but with further refinement, I think they can really hone in on something that is just their own, entirely their own. Because it feels like they have most of their identity in the heavy sections. Yet the stuff that I enjoyed most seemed to share almost too much identity with Deftones stuff. And that's maybe oversimplifying it. But from a vocal standpoint, there's too many kind of melodic affect and like vocal affectations that are similar to Chino's to be ignored, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's very reminiscent of Chino and Deftones. It's hard to say that bothered me because I really like that style, but
yeah,
I guess it's a very fair criticism if you're rating them on originality. I think I agree with you overall. There's so much to admire and like about this, and it feels like they're on the verge of this is close to being like an amazing album.
Yeah.
But there are some issues. I overall enjoyed the dreamy melodic stuff more than the heavy stuff, although there was some heavy stuff I really enjoyed as well. So
Yeah.
well, I think that's because I tend to lean more towards melodic stuff recently anyway. So that might just be my personal preference. Yeah. There's a lot to take in. I mean, I wonder, with all of the style switching thing, and your comment about how is this the same band, is there always going to be an inherent trade-off between, because I've talked about this before. I love albums where there's like a consistent vibe and feel throughout, and you kind of put it on, and the album has this really strong identity. Kind of listen to one song, and you're immediately pulled into the overarching feeling and vibe and like emotion that you get from the whole album, right? And I imagine that's probably not going to be the case here because the songs are very different.
But
is there always going to be a trade-off there between,
to be honest,
bands that are experimenting and pushing, because these guys are clearly like pushing the boundaries of what is done in, well, I guess I don't know, metal. What would you even call the genre?
Well, they're definitely pushing the boundaries in what a listener can expect from a song, an album, in terms of where they place themselves genre-wise. But I think, given the breadth of what they covered, they actually did quite a good job at setting mood overall. I think given that they went from one extreme to another, even within the same song, the fact that they kind of tied this together with, you had a couple of tracks that were kind of just sonics only, you had tail ends of tracks that were swells of synths and stuff. All those elements contributed towards lending the album a mood, I thought. So they did quite well, I thought, in that regard. But how well can you do, given...
They did very well. I agree with you. I think it's just that when I think of the most brutal, most aggressive parts of the album, and then I think of the most dreamy, pop-like ballady songs, those are quite hard to like come together.
And those are maybe the extremes that we're talking about. Maybe those are the elements that need refining in their sound to really kind of hone in on what their identity is. Maybe that it's just those outliers that are really... And whether they choose to come to the middle or go to one side or another, I don't know. But in some ways it feels like, and this may be complete bullshit, but it seems to me like there's almost too many heads in the room contributing ideas. Like, if you told me that all 5 members of the band contribute to the songwriting, I wouldn't be surprised. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
I mean, having said all of that, looking back at the track list, I'd say the majority of those songs were memorable to me. I don't mean that I remember all of the melodies or all of the riffs, but they were like, I remember the way I felt and how much I enjoyed them. Like, there were songs that I would be like, yeah, I really want to go back and listen to that again. Obviously, I want to go back and listen to the whole album again and have the album experience, and it might come together for me in a completely different way. But overall, I'm very impressed. Like, there were things that really, really, really impressed me about this. And yeah, I'm really glad to have been introduced to these guys, this album.
Favorite track?
I don't know. It's a really tough one. I really liked Screaming. I actually really liked Heavy is the Head That Falls with the Weight of 1,000 Thoughts. I really liked the Sad Cartoon. You weren't so keen.
No, I was kind of absorbing the album at that point. I think I just didn't give it the attention that it deserved. But those 2 tracks would be my standouts as well: the Screaming and Heavy is the Head That Falls. And Crispy Bart goes Phew. Why?
Yeah, like, you guys are worried for no reason. I mean, this is good shit.
It's obviously very good. Yeah, it's obviously
very good. I mean, like, we'd have to be assholes to...
Yeah, well, I mean, we're obviously being...
This is bullshit.
Yeah, we're obviously being, like, really... We're trying to critique it, basically. Can you touch
Yeah.
on two-way mirror again when you said that you would hold your judgment until later?
That was the first ballad, right? I still really like that.
Yeah. I think I've said everything that I was going to say. I didn't. It was probably just around the Chino stuff, or just the tonality of the album, which I had not yet put my finger on.
I got the sense that the vocals were an issue for you overall. Maybe you could talk more about that, because I got the sense that you didn't like the vocals were very low in the mix overall, I'd say. I'm talking about the clean vocals mostly here. And they're also very wet, like they were like heavily processed, right? And there was all sorts of effects on them. We rarely got like a clean, pure, dry tone.
Yeah.
There is
something to be said about beyond the vocal tone and the melodic choices, which I said in many cases were reminiscent of Chino from Deftones. There's also a lot to be said about the way that they were produced, which inclines a listener to go in that direction as well. Because Chino's vocals do tend to be very wet, I would say overall, very reverby. And they were even doing, there was one track, I can't quite remember the track now, but I said, like the way that they've processed these vocals is really weird, and the sung parts of the verse were quieter than like the breaths in between, and I was just like, okay, I can see what they're doing. They're giving the processing of on the vocals in the verse a kind of different flavor, but that kind of breathy, like gritty, uncomfortable processing on the vocals is in some way reminiscent of the way that they process vocals for Chino. So I was just like, my disappointment on the clean vocals came from, there are so many stylistic choices that could have been made in order to give this vocal its own identity, and the vocalist is his own identity, whereas it seems like in many cases the decisions and the artistic decisions that were made, if anything, lent in to the whole Deftones comparison.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair critique.
Chris's mic is making some odd noises when he talks. It's like it's vibrating against something. Do you know what that is? It's the extractor fan in the kitchen.
Holy shit. Picking it up from there. The thing that really bothered me was Is It Really You? And that like Deftones ripoff. That was the only thing that like really got me. Where I was like, come on guys, you're going too far now.
Which one was that?
So the second like ballady track, number 9, Is It Really You? I'm pretty sure the chorus for me was like the exact same. I think I mentioned it. It was like the exact same chords.
Yeah. Should we test this theory of yours?
Yeah, let's test the theory. Yeah.
Okay. Is it really you? Okay. This, yeah. Okay.
Go further in.
Okay, it's pretty fucking close.
So close, man.
Push back the square. Now that you need
Tune.
It's such a tune, by the way. Right, let's go back to it.
Well, back to the.
Let's go back to it again. It's by the way, when you hear the comparison, Chino's vocals are so much more up front in the mix, aren't they?
Yeah, very much.
So let's play this again.
Go back to school. Yeah.
It's basically the same, right?
You could see, you could
It's
do
a different
you could,
rhythm, different rhythm. But
slightly different, yeah. I get the
my instinct to
comparison.
Marcus is wrong. Interesting. In the sense that you think the chords are completely different.
I think
Brim.
he said that before I played it, but maybe
Oh, okay. Sorry, I just looked at it now.
falsehoods and
yeah,
lies. He said.
It's very close. It's very close. Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, you can. It's just. On one hand, I'm like, yeah, it's easy to say. Look, music is music, and like some shit's gonna get repeated. But of all the things that to be repeated, why is it that Deftones?
Yeah.
Why is it a series of 4 Deftones chords that we're relating it to? All right. Are you prepared to give this album a rating?
Yeah, I think so. We going out of 10 again, yeah?
Yeah. Crispy Bart, this is why I followed you guys. Would not have noticed at that level of detail. To be fair, if you play downtuned with extended chords, it's not surprising for it to sound similar.
Predict a 7, yeah, interesting.
Mine's a 7.
So my instinct was to go with a 7. But I feel like I feel like that's a little bit harsh in a way. Because there's just so much to admire in the album that I don't think this is an average album. I think it deserves a bit more than a 7. So I think I go with a 7.5 to 8, just because there were some moments that really blew me away, and I really admire what these guys have tried to do in this album, and I think it's worthy of more than a 7. That's my feeling,
I was at a 7.5. I was feeling exactly the same as you. For something for me to get an 8, I have to feel like it's verging on not flawlessness, but it has to be in the realm of excellence, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like when we rated, I can't remember what we rated the Oceans album. Was it a 9? Might have been.
It was an 8 to 9. Yeah.
8 to a 9, right? I feel that was right for that.
Yeah.
Given that, and where I started at 7.5, I started to think about it a bit more. I started to think about, maybe a few of the production choices and some of the stuff that I've talked about, and it kind of downsold it to a 7. But I feel like if the album had... I think the album, for me, suffers at the hands of its own ambitiousness to a certain extent.
I think that's fair. I mean, this is why ratings out of 10 are a little bit bullshit, right? You kind of lose all of the nuance.
Yeah.
But whether it's a 7 or an 8, I think big fucking congrats to these guys. Like, sure, maybe they didn't, fully deliver on... They didn't maybe get everything right and the things that need refinement, but...
do just the amount of work in that.
Just the amount of work, and like, there's just so much to admire. And honestly, there were moments where I was blown away. There were like some moments that I really, really, really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And I was just genuinely so impressed by some of the transitions and some of the ideas and the mix of styles.
Yeah, it's funny. I think you almost achieved higher highs on that album than I did.
I think so.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm a sucker for like dreamy, atmospheric kind of metal. Like I can't even call it metal, but I mean, I think that I have also gone far deeper with Deftones than you ever have. There was a point in time where Deftones like really, really meant a lot to me, and I can still go back to those albums, like the early albums, and
I mean, I've listened to them plenty.
I think you've listened to them, enjoyed them. I don't think you ever could say that Deftones were like really, really special to you. And I definitely can say that.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. I think one of my favorite actual Deftones albums, aside from White Pony, is Saturday Night Wrist. Actually, I think
That's a really good album. Yeah.
that for me is like one of their. It's probably the last album of theirs that I thought was up there for me, and that was a long time ago. I don't even know how long ago that was, but Saturday Night Wrist was what year? 2006. Yeah, but I remember where I was when I was listening to that. That's like, it's one of those albums, you know, where you can actually just like remember the place where you were, where you had the fucking headphones on, and it just, yeah, man, those albums always stay with me. It's the same with it's the same with 10,000 Days. I have pretty much got memories like that with all of Tool's albums except Fear Inoculum, but with 10,000 Days, I did a lot of listening to that album on while I was commuting to and from work, and I was like reading the Arthur C. Clarke Rama series at the time, so I've just got this kind of connection of this, to quote Maynard in the song, this kind of the cold fluorescence, you know, the kind of timbre of that, of the song 10,000 Days, when it goes into when he's singing about cold fluorescence, and it's got this kind of sterile feel, and that kind of sterile feel kind of mirrored perfectly with like this alien sterility of the novel. It was just like put me in one of those places, and I love it when that shit happens. All right.
I was just going to say, just reading Crispy Bart's comment, for me it's an 8, but some of the individual tracks I'd rate it 9 to 10, especially the title track. I totally agree with that. There were some tracks I would rate 9 to 10 as well.
I have a feeling that I may get my opinion may change on it listening to it again, and I will maybe rate it more highly, or some of the individual tracks more highly.
I think I'm going to give it like a week and then definitely go back and listen to the whole thing again as like an album experience.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, cool.
All right. So I still really. So the other two albums that we had that I put up to vote against were Versions of the Truth by Porcupine Tree, and the reason I put that one in there is just because it's got Gavin Harrison on drums. And the
you
first,
really like
well, I think from my guess is that you would say that he's overplaying, but I think it's borderline, and I think it will be quite interesting to hear your perspective on that as a drummer. And then Svalbard is another one whose new album I've yet to listen to. And they're a kind of female-fronted metal group with kind of some. Have been more recently compared to like Rollo Tomasi and stuff like that, but they've got their own thing going on. But yeah, I mean, we kind of want to make this semi-regular thing, right? Where we do this, if you guys are interested in it. So yeah, you'd love to hear Marcus's thoughts on Gavin.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Yeah, all right. So maybe we'll do Versions of the Truth, or at least some of it. Cool. All right. What else to say?
Thank you, everyone, for just introducing me to that album. I don't think I would have discovered it if we weren't doing this. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's the great thing about the Discord, actually, is like I'm discovering new things all the time, and it's actually... One of the reasons why I wanted to start it actually is I thought to myself today, my most kind of, the time where I listen to most music, and I noticed this actually from, you know, at the end of the year when Spotify tells you like how many hours of music you've listened to or whatever, I saw that in the years when I was working in an office, so that is up until like 18 months ago, almost 2 years ago, I was listening to a shit ton more music. Like Spotify was like 30,000 hours or something like that. And then as soon as I started working from home, I started listening to a lot less. And the reason was because when you're in an office environment, a lot of the time you're just putting music on in order to kind of be able to concentrate and block out people that are fucking talking around you, right? And one of the things that came as a result of listening to less music, being at home, having the silence that you need to concentrate or whatever, is that I was discovering less music. And so I'm really like glad that we've got like this little thing going on now where we can kind of share new and interesting stuff with each other. It's cool. And speaking of new and interesting stuff, Friday is going to be New Music Friday again. So yeah, we're going to do the new Architect song, and I haven't really done any more research beyond that, but if you're aware of something that's coming out or is out this week that you want to have in the playlist, then let me know. Otherwise I'll do my usual research on Friday morning / afternoon and put together a nice playlist and hopefully have some new stuff that you guys haven't heard. I think the find of last week was that Green Druid song, The Forest Dark, wasn't it? That 11-minute Doom track. That was just epic.
That was really good.
That was epic. I listened to it again recently and I was just like, damn, man, this tune is serious. Cool. All right. On that note, I think it might be time for a little bit of dinner or something, right?
Yeah, sounds good, man.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being here the whole time. And yeah, really, really happy to have done this. So have a lovely evening. Take it easy. See ya.
See you later.